What if I told you that every time you reheat your leftovers, you're using technology originally designed to obliterate enemy aircraft? Picture this. October 1945. A Raytheon engineer standing in front of a military radar magnetron, a device pumping out enough electromagnetic radiation to track bombers from miles away. He's not thinking about cooking. He's thinking about detection, about defense, about death. But what happened next didn't destroy anything. It transformed everything. This is the story of how a failed death ray became the most common appliance in modern kitchens. And the truth is far stranger than the chocolate bar legend you've probably heard. Let's go back to 1940. World War II. The Battle of Britain. The British are getting hammered by German night raids. They can't see the bombers coming until it's too late. What they need is a way to detect aircraft in complete darkness, through clouds, through anything. Enter the cavity magnetron. This wasn't just a radio tube. This was a beast. A vacuum-sealed cylinder that could generate massive bursts of high-frequency electromagnetic waves, what we now call microwaves. Scientists at the University of Birmingham in England had just perfected it. Two physicists, John Randall and Harry Boot, created a device that could emit radiation at frequencies never before achieved in such a compact form. The magnetron revolutionized radar. Suddenly, operators could track enemy planes from incredible distances with pinpoint accuracy. The Allies installed these in ships, planes, ground stations. It became one of the most closely guarded secrets of the war. But here's what most people don't know. The magnetron was terrifying. This thing generated radiation so intense that standing too close without shielding could literally cook your internal organs. Engineers working on early radar systems reported burns, nausea, strange heating sensations. There were whispers among scientists about weaponizing it, creating focused beams that could disable aircraft electronics or even injure pilots. It was, in every practical sense, a death ray, just one that was used for seeing rather than destroying. After the war ended in 1945, thousands of these magnetrons sat in warehouses. The military didn't need as many. Defense contractors like Raytheon, which had been manufacturing them by the thousands, suddenly had mountains of surplus technology and no obvious peacetime application. One of those contractors' engineers was about to change history. His name was Percy Spencer. Now, here's where the story gets interesting, and where the myth starts to diverge from reality. Reality. You've probably heard the tale. Percy Spencer was walking past an active magnetron in October 1945 when a chocolate bar in his pocket melted. Curious, he grabbed some popcorn kernels, held them near the magnetron, and watched them pop. Eureka! The microwave oven was born. It's a great story. It's also oversimplified. The truth is more deliberate, more scientific, and far more fascinating. Percy Spencer wasn't some accidental genius who stumbled onto a discovery. He was a self-taught engineering savant who'd left school at 12 but had become one of Raytheon's top experts on magnetron technology. He held dozens of patents. He understood electromagnetic radiation better than almost anyone alive. What actually happened in October 1945 was this. Spencer was conducting tests on a high-powered magnetron, examining its output, measuring its efficiency, troubleshooting issues. During one of these tests, he noticed something unusual. Objects near the active magnetron were heating up, not just getting warm, getting hot, fast. This wasn't the chocolate bar moment. This was systematic observation. Spencer began experimenting. He placed different materials near the magnetron. Some stayed cold, others heated rapidly. He noticed that anything containing water molecules showed the most dramatic temperature increase. He tried an egg. It exploded, cooked from the inside out. He tried popcorn kernels. They popped violently, scattered across the lab. And that's when Spencer realized this wasn't a flaw. This was a feature. The magnetron wasn't accidentally heating things. It was efficiently converting electromagnetic energy into thermal energy through a process called dielectric heating. Here's how it works. The magnetron generates electromagnetic waves oscillating at 2.45 gigahertz. That's 2.45 billion cycles per second. When those waves hit water molecules, they cause them to rotate rapidly, trying to align with the alternating electric field. This molecular friction generates heat, intense, uniform heat. Spencer had just discovered that a weapon designed to detect bombers could cook food faster and more evenly than any conventional oven. Turning a military radar component into a kitchen appliance was not a simple matter of putting a magnetron in a metal box. The original radar magnetrons were massive. They required water cooling systems. They drew enormous amounts of power. They were designed for battlefield conditions, not domestic safety. Spencer and his team at Raytheon spent the next year engineering a complete redesign. They had to throttle the power output enough to heat food quickly, but not so much that it would be dangerous. They had to add shielding metal cages that would contain the radiation completely. They had to develop safety interlocks so the magnetron would shut off instantly if the door opened. And they had to make it affordable. The first commercial microwave oven, called the Raytheon, was unveiled in 1947. It was absurd. 6 feet tall, weighed 750 pounds. Cost $5,000, about $70,000 in today's money. It required a dedicated water line for cooling and drew enough power to dim the lights when it turned on. Nobody bought it for home use, but restaurants and ocean liners, they were interested. Industrial kitchens that needed to heat food fast saw the potential. The Raytheon spent the next 2 decades as a commercial curiosity. Too expensive, too bulky, too intimidating. But technology moves forward. By the mid-1960s, transistors replaced vacuum tubes in most electronics, making devices smaller and more efficient. Raytheon and other manufacturers refined the magnetron design, reducing size and cost. In 1967, Amana, a division of Raytheon, released the first countertop microwave oven for $495. It was compact, it was affordable, and it worked. Within a decade, microwave ovens went from industrial novelty to middle-class necessity. By 1975, microwave ovens outsold gas ranges in the United States. By 1986, over 60% of American households had one. A failed weapon had conquered the domestic landscape. Here's the part that fascinates me most. The microwave oven works on the exact same principle as the radar magnetron that inspired it. That 2.45 gigahertz frequency Spencer discovered? Still the standard. Why? Because it's the perfect frequency for exciting water molecules without requiring excessive power. Too low, and the waves don't penetrate deep enough. Too high, and they bounce off the surface. 2.45 gigahertz is the sweet spot. This is why some foods heat unevenly in microwaves. It's not a flaw, it's physics. Foods with varying water content heat at different rates. The denser areas take longer. The wetter areas heat faster. That's why you stir soup halfway through. That's why frozen dinners have specific instructions about venting. And here's the kicker. The magnetron in your kitchen microwave is fundamentally identical to the magnetrons in 1940s radar systems. Smaller, yes. More efficient, yes. But the core technology, a vacuum tube generating electromagnetic oscillations through electron motion in a magnetic field, hasn't changed. Every time you heat up pizza, you're using World War II weapons technology. Today, over 90% of American households have a microwave oven. Globally, hundreds of millions are manufactured every year. It's become so ubiquitous we forget it was ever revolutionary. But think about the journey, from a device designed to detect death falling from the sky to an appliance that heats your coffee. Percy Spencer died in 1970, just as microwaves were becoming mainstream. He held 300 patents by the end of his life. But this, the accidental discovery that a death ray could cook, became his defining legacy. The next time you stand in front of your microwave, watching your food rotate on that little glass plate, remember, you're witnessing the domestication of a weapon, the transformation of destructive power into everyday convenience. And it all started with a man who noticed that things near a radar magnetron got hot and asked the most important question in innovation history. What if we did that on purpose? That's the story of the microwave, a failed weapon, a reluctant revolution, and proof that sometimes the best discoveries come from asking what else a technology can do.